Yeah, we can start.
Already started. We'll start.
Oh, we already started? Oh,
Yeah,
sheesh.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, let's start. Let's start.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having an amazing your host for this session, and thank you for tuning in. That said, if you guys want to contribute our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job you're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. So, for this edition of the Reality Bang, we're going to have a special topic. Now, is Gen Z really anti work? And of course, we have Johan here with us. It's great to have you back on the show.
It's good to be back. We both have officially become an established name, bro, in reality bank.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yohann and Johan.
yeah. But
So
yeah,
let's,
as you can see, Johan was extremely focused. He didn't know the live started 30 seconds, and
yeah,
we are.
guilty as charged.
But we'll be talking about something that Gen Zs apparently are not interested in. That is
Mhm.
hard work. But well, let's get into the topic. Let's go.
Yeah, let's jump right in. So my very first question is now, when people say Gen Z is, anti-work, like, are they rejecting the work itself, or just the idea of, living to work?
See, I don't. So that's the thing. Like, I am not someone. Weirdly, I'm not someone who has figured out that sort of a work-life balance or anything that Gen Zs are themselves trying to discover. Right? I
Yeah.
myself am trying to figure that out. Because that balance is something I have not been able to do. But as they talk about having problems about doing work overtime and all of that. I'm someone
Mhm.
who it doesn't bother me as long as the work needs to be done finished within a deadline. I am someone who's willing to work within those more hours. So for me,
Mhm.
it's a different sort of a thing. But I totally understand from where they come from, what they're trying to talk. They are not against work. That's one of the things I find weird, that people think Gen Zs are against work. You can't be against work. You have rent and bills to pay, so people
Yeah.
are obviously going to sit and work. But I think it is that system that has been created, and the fact that this overtiming and this sort of an exhaustion that workplace has, and that is glorified. That is the
Mhm.
problem. Working overtime and spending more number of hours, that more than you're actually supposed to, that you usually do, and all these things are glorified. That is the major problem, right? And there's sort of a system that has been created. Gen Z's have seen this, and they've seen it fail multiple times. And the problem is this whole thing about being anti-work. I don't like the fact that this is something that is blamed on Gen Zs. I think if you look at the entire thing about anti-work, it goes back to like centuries. Like there are
Mhm.
literally philosophers and all these thinkers from back in the day. They themselves have openly spoken about that sort of a system that has been created, and how it is not necessarily healthy. They
Mhm.
have, and you can actually go and check this out. There are a lot of philosophers and a lot of people who have actually spoken about this. But I don't know why it's weirdly just blamed it on like Gen Z's. This whole thing about the ideal sort of a life, right, where people expect less work and a good sort of a pay and a good life. And it's almost
Mhm.
like this sort of an ideal life that people expect, right? And a place
Mhm.
with a great garden, with a great scenery, and a great life that they want. Just two steps out, they have everything in the world that they need. And this is
Mhm.
that this sort of an ideal life that every single person seek out. And a lot of people think everyone wants it. Everyone wants a life like that, right? A life where you were. I mean, it
Mhm.
is as ideal as it looks, but unfortunately, it doesn't work out that way. And it is
Mhm.
these kind of people who have somewhat created like a structure. I don't want to say it in that way, but it is those kind of people, right? They are the ones who have created this sort of a
Mhm.
structure out. And we have seen, like, people have seen, Gen Z's have seen their own parents, and even like the people like the millennial generation struggle from it. Yeah, and the thing about this working overtime and everything, I know Gen Z's. who have worked overtime. This is something we need to tell, right? We know, we ourselves know people who work overtime, who have worked really hard. These people who are into startups, they work really, really hard. But the thing is, they are willing to put the effort themselves. That is the difference. When that sort of an extra hard work is expected from the other end, that you have to do this, you have to do that, and they are just not willing to do uh, work for the certain number of hours, that beyond that is what is asked to them. They somewhat, people find it lazy, which is something I'll never understand. Why do people find this sort of an environment that has been created, which is not, some people are fine with it, but unfortunately some people are just not fine with that sort of an environment. But it has been glorified, and that is the that's problem. And out and Gen Z's are basically openly telling, but it has always been that way. Like, people don't like the sort of a system that has been created, and I think post COVID things have changed a lot. Like, in general, I think the cost of expenses and living have, increased in general. And I think COVID was one of this era where during COVID, a lot of people were laid off, right? And a lot of people lost jobs, and because through that, a lot of people were like, "Is it really, is it really worthy to? Is it really like worth the effort to go back and lead that sort of a lifestyle?" And that's where a lot of Gen Zs were trying to experiment and try doing some different sort of, work. Unfortunately, they, I don't know why the moment Gen Zs just reject this sort of a system that has been created, Gen Zs are considered lazy, they are considered irresponsible. I just don't get that part. But you should but I know Gen Zs who are willing to put those extra work to get the deadlines, finish it within the certain deadline. We know that, but the expectation is coming from the other end. That is the thing that they don't like, that this sort of a pressure is normalized.
Yeah. And also, like, there are many long work hours. Like, if we take a look in certain companies, sometimes you have to work like, 9 to 12 hours of
Mm,
work. And recently, I don't know if you came across this reel. There was this one lady. I think she was Indian, I'm not sure,
mm,
but she was there in a US office, okay?
mm.
And by 5 the office was empty, like absolutely empty. And I was a little bit curious. I thought maybe she just went to, it's a newly constructed office, or
Mm.
maybe she placed all the tables like that. Then I just went and checked the comments, and a lot of, like, of course, our people, like Indians, like, a lot of them said, "You put one Indian manager, you'll see the entire place, clocked up till maybe 7 or 8."
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, actually, that is true, because we don't stick to the regular, time of 8 hours or
Mm.
something. Like, some places do stick to that, but many places, like, they always want more, and the various companies that want even more from the people. Like, like, there was once this I'm not sure whether he had a YouTube or
Mm.
not, but I know that he went on YouTube in a podcast or
Mm.
something, and he said, like, the time I get to spend with my family is only like 16 hours throughout the entire week.
That's very less.
And that's very less. Like, you're just coming home, and like, you're not even sleeping for the most
Mm.
part. Like, imagine, like, on a weekly basis, I guess, like, maybe 3 4
Yeah, I
hours
think in a
you have to
day,
come.
that's what I think, 1 or 2 hours, or probably, yeah, I think it must be like 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly, that's very very less. And like, we can see, like, he's just telling, how his wife is reacting. She's telling, like, you spend a lot of time at your work, and you're barely having time for us. And then that leads into a whole another argument. But that main factor of, over being overworked is, I'm thinking, like, what Gen Z is really referring to, because they don't want to go down the same path. Now, this guy, he was a little bit elderly, like, I'm talking about maybe in his late 30s, early 40s, around
Hmm.
that. But a lot of Gen Z, like, we are like 20s something, right? So we don't want to get to that stage where, we don't have time for family, we don't have time for
Hmm.
ourselves. The only thing is, it's just work, work, and work.
Hmm.
And there's no benefit, because you're just working for somebody else. And nowadays, like, many people have this whole entrepreneurship mindset where we want to work for ourselves, we want to make a lot of money doing the stuff we like.
Mm.
So they are just not going to work so much for another company.
Hmm. And the thing is, like the whole thing is, like the older generation always believe in this one thing. The little bit, like the
Mhm.
more you push someone, the thicker their skin gets. And this is yeah, and
Yeah.
this is like an attitude. See, like this sort of a push, the results. The I'm not gonna lie. There are some people who are very strict like this, who are very who make some people work overtime, and overall that sort of a result we have seen. Like that's why like people keep saying, right, like when it
Mhm.
comes to like perfecting an art, right, like when some sort of an art,
Mhm. Mhm.
there are people who work like 10 12 hours a day to get that. They work really really
Yeah.
hard to perfect in that, and to become really like A to Z, knowing to know everything in that. That's the only way, like practicing for that many hours in a week, in a day, is the reason that they have come to where they are. There's no doubt that you put that extra effort,
Mhm.
that result will come. But overall, in the bigger picture, that there's no denial that your yeah, there's imbalance in your work life. The fact that it is mentally straining you, and like you're not getting
Mhm.
you're not getting enough sleep, and physically and mentally it is very draining for a person to do that. But the difference is, a person who's
Mhm.
putting that many hours of work in a day, they are willing to go through those extra miles. A person who doesn't want to do
Mhm.
that, who wants to have like sort of a balance, that the people who think that work isn't the only thing that's part of their life. So and that is
Mhm.
for someone who thinks that it's beyond just work, that is complete, that's how it should be. Like the fact that
Mhm.
work is, your whole life is not revolving around work, it's also your social life, and it's also the other things that you enjoy. Like for example, someone who
Mhm.
let's say, who someone who loves reading, the fact that you're going to work like 12 hours on a day, and if you count the traffic in India, it will take I think at least 2 hours minimum goes on traveling in a day for everyone. And
Yeah.
for someone who doesn't like to do, who they don't have time for reading, and but someone
Mhm.
who somewhat has that sort of a balance, that they prefer, okay, but this time I'm done with my work, I go. And they have that sort of a structure created to get their their social life, their other sorts of interests, all of that also comes in
Mhm.
count. But because of this sort of a system created, that's why a lot of people, the moment they start working, a lot of things that they were interested in, they stop doing that, right? And Gen Z's, because they've
Mhm.
just started working, they don't want to lose all those interests that they have, and that's why they
Yeah.
want to sort of create this balance. But there's the other side where they're like, you have to work these many hours, they say no, and they just consider it lazy. I don't get that.
Exactly. Moving on to the next question now. What really, drives Gen Zs in their career, especially if we talk about the current gen? Now, is it passion, purpose, balance, or, just simple survival?
I think there's a thing. I think we have already touched a little bit on this itself, right? A little bit like what drives the Gen Zs to
Mhm.
do all of this. But I also, but I also feel like there is every, irrespective of which generation you're from, there is one generation of people who don't think work as their main part of their life. For some people, it is literally
Yeah.
their life. Like every single thing that for them
Mhm.
revolves around that, which is why they give their 100 which is why they give their 100%. Like yeah, like all the biggest
Mhm.
entrepreneurs that you will know, like if you listen to their story, they've spoken about working endless hours. You're talking about like 16 17 hours per day. Like their whole day revolves, and the only
Mhm.
thing they do apart from their work is go and sleep. They don't do anything apart from that.
Mhm.
And but then there's this another
Yeah.
group of people who who are not necessarily interested to thrive that much. They want, for them it is beyond just work, it's other things also, that's that they enjoy in life. And it's that sort of a balance that they
Mhm.
enjoy. Okay, fine, 9 to 5 is my work. Let's say like early in the morning, if they wake up at 6, a lot of people like working out, right? A lot of people love going to the gym and
Mhm.
working out, because yeah, like it meant it it's not just about like physically fit. Like the people who go to the gym will also say that it mentally keeps them very fresh in the morning. when they go for a workout.
Yeah.
And that is an important part of their life. And the ones who do this exercise, who go for workout, they say on a daily basis like how mentally it keeps them, fresh. And it is true. And but imagine your work life gets disrupted, where you're supposed like 9 o'clock is the day your starts, but your boss is asking you to come to the office like let's say 8 o'clock or something. And if you count the traffic, like your 1 hour of going to the gym or something, that gets completely gone. That's completely gone.
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
and there's one, they no, they don't like that, that this is because for them it's not just the work. This going to the gym is very important for that person. Or it's
Yeah.
not just gym, it can be any other sort of a thing that they like doing early in the morning. And it just gets disrupted, and they don't, that disruption in their life, that is what bothers them. and uh, and I think the fact that they don't like this sort of a work culture, uh, and they're just saying that this is not good, and that they've been labeled as this whole thing of anti-work. People have been complaining about this for a long time. It's just now because of the internet being there, people are more vocal about it. That's the difference. But
Yeah.
people have been complaining about this sort of a thing. But then there are Gen Zs who equally thrive, who are, for them, this whole sort of a work that they do, that 100% of their life pretty much revolves around that. We know such sort of Gen Zs as well, right? And they
Yeah.
really work hard, from working like 16 hours and or plus on a day. And we've seen such sort of an effort that they've made. But it's just, I don't know, but it's just the one group, like one group of people who are just openly saying that this system is not right. Negative, so that what, like, the negative things on internet always spreads more than the positive things. It's very unfortunate, but that's just how things work. Like a person, like let's just take like a celebrity who has created a great success in that, in their life, and one incident can pretty much ruin their entire fame in internet today. And we have
Yeah. Yeah.
seen that happen. We have seen that happen multiple times. And because negativity spreads, something like this that they're telling that this is not good, and it's just spreading. But then there are also Gen Zs who work really hard, that people just don't tell. Like I think that's what I'm saying, like this sort of working extra hours, all these things are completely like normalized, and it's almost glorified, and it's the sort of an effort that they're taking. So a lot of things drive Gen Z pretty much like every other generation. It's just they're being more open about it, I feel.
Yeah. Now, why does, the attitude of Gen Zs like towards jobs or, boundaries seem to clash with the older generation? Like they always believe like, you have to work hard. The more time you spend on work, the more you'll grow. So why does that clash actually happen?
So, so that's the thing. I think one is that okay, I don't know. Like, I think the earlier generations just never openly spoke about it as much as they did do now. I think that is the main thing. And I'm not just gonna say, okay, I don't want to say earlier generation. I think it's just post-internet. We have seen like more people's opinions just coming out more. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just a better way to put it. Like, for example, I'll tell you this one of the most famous films in the world, that is Shining. I don't know if you've seen the film.
The,
It's a 1980 horror film.
yeah,
and
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and the director, he's widely considered to be like the greatest. I mean, it's like he's considered like the greatest sort of a director. And he and there's a female actor in that. Her performance is widely considered to be like one of the greatest performances, and she's widely praised for it. But if you see behind the scenes what the director did, he did like sort of a method sort of a directing. He isolated her, like he was genuinely being rude to her, and he put her in a corner, and he was treating her, he was not talking nice to her like the way he was talking to the other people. And all these things is doing intentionally. There is this one shot, it is basically her swinging a bat. And the and guess how many takes was taken for that one shot? It's just her swinging the bat. How many takes you think they would have taken?
I'm guessing maybe five, three, five.
128 takes.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot.
128 takes. 128 takes were taken for that, and 128 takes were taken, and his reason was very simple. It's not just he was satisfied. It's not the fact that her performance was bad. It's just
Hmm.
like the more number of takes he'll take, the more like she'll be exhausted physically and mentally,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that's sort of her body language. Everything changes because she's physically so drained out,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so that's why he was doing. So that's the reason he took that many takes for that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
eventually, it is one of the most well-known. That bat swinging scene is one of the most well-known scenes in the whole movie. And
Hmm. Hmm.
the thing is, like, there are other filmmakers also have done this. They've taken 100 plus takes to get one shot ready, but there are actors who have spoken about it, but then they have not complained about it. They're like,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
fine,
Hmm.
it's just perfecting the art. But in some cases like this, I'm saying, like, the level of sort of a amount that mentally that this director had pushed this actor to a
Hmm.
point. She has said that this has mentally affected her, like, even
Hmm.
after
Hmm.
the film. For many years, this sort of, the push that was given by the director affected her mentally a lot. It sort of affected her sort of perception about acting itself in general. A
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
performance was given out, a sort a perform it's like considered one of the best performances. And and is it a great work of art? Yes, but then at
Hmm.
what cost? That's the whole point. That was the whole point of the whole argument that people have had about that whole story, that how it has mentally affected her. And I think that's the whole reason why, like, Gen Zs have seen this sort of a system that has been created, and this working overtime. And let's be honest, like, a lot of times, like, people have worked overtime and they have not gotten the pay for that also. Like,
Exactly.
now,
Yeah.
yeah, and now we are seeing that, like, if someone is going to work overtime, there are, like, some companies who, like, how many hour extra hours you work, you get paid for that. But then there are some companies who just don't do that. They get paid, they don't get paid overtime. And eventually they're still, like, financially, people have seen, like, people struggle despite them working for for these many hours, and they've
Hmm.
seen all of this happen. So I think Gen Z is one. I think because they just started working, it's a little bit difficult for them to set to this sort of a life. But
Hmm. Hmm.
also there's another feel is like, my another thing is, like, for them, they have seen people struggle like this, and for them it's like, at what cost do I that I need to do. So I think that is the whole thing. I think millennials also, they also don't like it, but then I think because they've grown up in such sort of a system, I
Hmm.
think,
Hmm.
and they themselves have worked extra hours and everything. I think the moment a Gen Z is telling no, there is one group of millennials who are completely fine with it. I think they're fine with the
Hmm.
fact
Hmm.
that Gen Zs are opening up by talking about it. But another
Yeah.
group who are fine with working for these extra hours is these people who are fine with putting themselves out to work those extra hours. These are the people who are complaining that
Hmm.
Gen Zs are not, they're not willing to put that effort. It's just they're telling no to them. I think that no
Hmm.
is very hard for someone to take. But it's completely fair. Like, you were told, when the person was applying for a job, that person was told 9 to this certain time is the is what you is the time, and you're gonna work for this many number of
Hmm.
hours. Apart beyond that, if you're being asked to work, and they're not interested in it, I mean, I don't know. But then if the employee and the
Hmm. Hmm.
person itself is willing to put themselves out and put those many hours, it's fine. And Gen Zs are doing that.
Hmm. 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 Now, if Gen Z could, redesign the workplace, to put it simply, like from scratch, now what would it actually look like, and how, you know, how would it, be successful, or how would that success be defined?
The answer is my answer is honestly, my answer is, I actually have no idea. I think the Gen Z's thing is, they want. I think their whole thing about creating this ideal workspace, right, where work is so
Hmm.
hybrid and it's very flexible, where a workplace where like, mental health is prioritized as much as as much as, like, the work itself, where
Hmm.
a world where people are getting paid for the for the work that they are doing. I think this sort of an
Mhm.
ideal world that they were the workspace that they want to create, everyone wants to have. I don't think it's something that just Gen Z's only want to have. People earlier also would have loved to have
Mhm.
that sort of a life, right? But Gen
Yeah.
Z's want to create that sort of a work. But my thing is, we know Gen Z's itself, the ones who start up and who set up all these sort of who have these startups, who start these companies, these are Gen Z's. Like I said, these are Gen Z's who work really for multiple hours to get, because
Mhm.
to run an office, you can't just expect 9 to 5 and just finish a work. It's just, it's just, no,
Exactly.
it doesn't work. It's just this this full drive force, and working hard is the only sort of a solution, that's the only way you can make something work, because the world is extremely competitive, right? So many people are trying to do exactly
Mhm.
what you're trying to do, so you can't. So the whole thing of working 9 to 5, I think the ones who want to exceed and be on top of the competition, they will work beyond those hours. And and because
Mhm.
they're working beyond those hours, that expectation will be fallen even on the employees. And I think,
Mhm.
unfortunately, as much as Gen Zs would love to create that sort of a workspace, but the reason why, all this to make the reason why a lot of people want, uh, they expect to work for extra hours, is because the world is very competitive, right? Multiple people are, yeah, because of
Mhm.
how competitive it is, because they have to finish their deadlines, is the reason they push and expect the employees to work for these many number of hours. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I mean, they if they are doing it, okay, fine, there's nothing wrong in it. But that expectation from another person, and the moment they tell a no, that's where it becomes difficult. So I don't know, I feel like this whole
Yeah.
ideal sort of an office that Gen Z would like to create, I would love to see that. I would love to see such sort of an ideal workspace. But
Mhm.
it is very difficult, like that the boss who's creating the startup, they can work for those extra hours, to make the company work. But
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I think that expectation that they'll have from the employees itself, that is where it becomes a
Mm.
problem. And uh, and uh,
Yeah.
but creating that sort of a structure, there are some, I guess, who are doing it. I don't know, I haven't heard of such sort of offices where, they've
Mhm.
created a structure like this, where there's importance given to everything.
Mhm.
But I would like to see something like that. Well, what do you say? You have anything to say about this?
Like, I know there are some places that have started this entire thing, but that's because, like, as I said, the current Gen Z, like, they're more into entrepreneurship, starting their own business, startups, that kind of thing. Like, there are certain cultures that do exist, but I have not actually visited certain
Yeah.
places, so I'm really not sure on, how they function or anything like that. But let's just say if the person is, from a
Hmm.
Gen Z era, then he or she will understand the importance of, what it's like to come from that era. But then again, there are other Gen Zs who want to really focus on work, who want to really
Hmm.
build that startup. And as you said, they expect the employees also to give the same, enthusiasm, the same effort and all of that. But here's the thing, like, most startups, they don't really have the, what do you say, the
Hmm.
capital to, pay these employers, like, over sorry, employees
Hmm.
over
Yeah.
time. Or even if they do pay them, it is like, it is not how the current system should be. So it's like, what you earn per day multiplied by time something and divided by something, and that's how much you get, like, hourly
Hmm.
pay for these people, like, overtime. And then that overtime pay is, like, multiplied into some point something, 1 point, or maybe two, 0 point something, I don't know. The calculation just varies from
Hmm.
company to company. Now, they don't exactly pay them as per the calculation. They, like, cut down, like, they'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll give you, like, maybe 200 or maybe 100 rupees per hour if you work overtime or something like that. And that's less compared to, the current
Yeah.
overtime equation which people have started. And that kind of, limits a lot of Gen Z's. Like, they do not want to work that overtime without receiving that
Hmm.
certain benefit. And nowadays, like, few companies, whenever they hire people, they go on the contract
Yeah. Yeah.
basis, right? And many people are complaining, this contract doesn't work out. Like, say if we mess up or if we do something, we don't get that pay which we should be
Hmm.
receiving. Like, most of the time, like, they start the first month, the first month is entirely like work for free. They're not getting anything in that. In most places that I know, like all these, uh, what do you say, BPOs and call centers
Mm.
and all of that. Like most of these places, like the first month you don't get paid. They'll be like, oh, we'll give it to you in the second month. Second month comes, they don't give you the full thing. They'll give you like half or a certain percentage of that. And then by the time it comes to the third month, they're already okay. I have to leave this company, so the terms of the contract also is over. So they just don't get incentivized to stay in the company and work more harder. I don't know why this happens,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like even I also would really like to see Gen Z startups which have a good
Mm.
work culture, which do not put much pressure on the employees. Like a certain pressure is good to the extent like where they have to realize like, okay, I have to get this done. If I get this done, then I can actually
Mm.
relax. I won't have anything more to do. If it is like that, then I feel it's better, because then they'll be incentivized to finish work quicker. If they have any pending work, they can finish that, so it kind of boosts
Mm.
productivity. So I would really like to see an environment, but I don't know, maybe there are places like that who are very successful in doing it, but I don't know, I really wish to see something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
that's the thing, right? Like to give that sort of a that sort of a perfect sort of a workspace and an office. Like I don't think in the
Hmm.
first year, like you mentioned, I don't think in the first year itself it's possible. And I think it, like the
Yeah,
ones who
exactly.
can give that sort of a space, it's like a couple of years of success of that company, where
Hmm.
if they're a profitable company and they're doing good. I think that's when they can give these sort of a like this sort of a perfect sort of a work cycle. I think so. That's what in the
Yeah.
beginning, yeah, it is very tough, but I think still some people can pull it off.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think it's impossible,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is very difficult, I feel.
Hmm. That's true. Now, with that said, that officially brings us to the end of today's show. A huge thank you to Johan for joining
Thank you for
today's show.
calling me. It was good.
Yeah, it was. And remember, guys, we air on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. That's it. If you guys want to contribute to topics, I need to say, I just want to tell us what an amazing job we're doing. You can reach out to us at 6364252164. And a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this edition of the Reality Bang, your weekly dose of youth power, brought to you by FIBA Online. This is RJ Johan. Hope you have an amazing